Welcome back to Faith and Work. Today's episode is extra special for me. I'm sitting down with a dear friend, Mia, someone that I have known and loved for the last 15 years. Mia came to the United States from Romania over 17 years ago, not knowing a lot of English, not knowing exactly what her future would look like, but carrying a story that God was already writing. Today, she's a wife, a mom, a writer, and she's poured her journey into a beautiful book called Buried But Not Broken. We've linked her book in the show notes for today. I know many of you are going to see pieces of your story in hers. This conversation is not just for immigrants or people who have moved from country to country. It's for anyone who has ever walked into a room and wondered, do I belong here? For anyone who has ever felt unseen, misunderstood, or defined by someone else's words. Mia's faith in God carried her through some incredibly hard seasons, dark days where hope felt buried, but yet God was still at work. So if you've ever felt like you weren't enough, if you've ever believed the labels that someone else placed on you, or if you're still learning how to find your worth, not in what others say, but in who you are in Christ, this episode is for you. Let's dive right into my conversation with Mia. I'm so happy to have my friend Mia Godfrey here today with us. Mia, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, darling. I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. We've been talking about this for a really long time, and there's so many different facets of Mia's story. But her and I met almost 15 years ago. March is our 15-year friendship anniversary. And the first time I ever met Mia, I was scared to death of her because I thought she was so intimidating. And I was starting out at a job, and Mia was already at the company that I would work at. And she was introducing herself, and she was kind of setting some expectations for employment. And me and the person beside me in that training class, we were like, man, I hope she's not our boss. She's going to be so hard. And then lo and behold, God has a sense of humor. He allowed us to become best friends, and she has been a sweet adopted member of our family and a sweet, sweet friend to me. And I'm so thankful to have her in my life. And now I'm thankful for the pleasure and joy of getting to share her with everyone else. So Mia, if people are meeting you today for the first time, what would you like for them to know about you?
That I'm not as mean as I look. So you always remind me of that story. But I was back in, you were right. I was doing everything like it was a mission.
Yes.
And because I grew up in Romania, people don't realize that this is not my first language.
Right.
And I was translating everything in my mind from Romanian to English.
Yeah.
And I never realized how my face looked. Because it looked intense. Intense.
And
you're not the only person who said that. A lot of people said, oh, I thought you were so mean. I was like, why would you think?
Well, you make a great point. Because you were translating things in your head before you talked with a lot of intention. Because you said
and
every
intensity.
Word on, yes, high intensity, high intention. And so you talked very slowly, but it felt like you looked into our souls as you told us the rules. And we were like, this is going to be so intense. And we had no idea. We didn't know you. And now it was Becky. And so now, Becky, if you're listening, I'm sure you remember that conversation 15 years ago. But anyway, so much of life has happened. You mentioned you're from Romania, so I would love for you to get us kicked off there. What was life like growing up in Romania, your community, your work? I know you did extensive work there, your faith, your family, all of that. Kind of just give us a picture of what life was like for you.
So I'm the youngest of 10 children. I have 6 brothers and 3 sisters. And my family worked really hard. My father was a manager at a construction company. And my mom was cleaning trains at night so she can take care of us during the day. But no matter how hard they worked, we never really had enough as far as food because the food was restricted during the communist regime. So life in Romania was simple, when it comes to material things,
Yeah.
but it was really rich when it comes to relationship.
Mm.
Family was everything to us.
Yeah.
We were very close knit. We still are.
Yeah.
And everyone looked out for each other.
Yeah.
Community mattered. Our neighbors were not just next door people. They
Yeah.
were extended family, and we
Mm.
prayed together. We done through every season of our lives. We
Yeah.
always had our neighbors and our community,
Yeah.
and trusting God even when resources were scarce.
Hmm.
That made the biggest difference in our lives.
I love when you talked about your neighbors being like family and praying
Mm-hmm.
together. I love the imagery of that. And I feel like in America, part of our culture, we strive so much for independence that
Yes.
sometimes we forget community. And
Yes.
community for us can be like a church or a job. But when community is part of your culture, it really does impact every part of your life.
It truly does. It
Yeah.
truly does.
So you mentioned the community and where you grew up and your family, but what did your work culture look like? I know you mentioned your mom and dad and what they did.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start to work and what did work look like for you in Romania?
So I started working when I was 11, and my
Wow.
first job was plum picking.
Mm.
It's not a good memory because I used to be yelled a lot.
Oh,
For
man.
people who don't know me, I don't have a good eyesight, and
Right.
I did not know I needed glasses until I was 18. And that
Wow.
came with a lot of hardship, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
bullying.
Yeah.
And my first job was plum picking, and it just happened. I was stepping on the plums a lot. And
Oh.
it came with a lot of cuss words and a lot of
Oh,
words like
yeah.
how worthless I was.
Oh, man.
Um, but they never knew I couldn't see. I didn't know. I thought that was normal. I just
Mm.
labeled myself as clumsy.
Yeah.
But work meant dignity.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about earning money, it was about responsibility, character, and providing for your family.
Yeah.
People in Romania respected hard work.
Yeah.
It was pride in doing well. Even if it was
Mm-hmm.
plum picking, um, it's it was a tough job. It was
Yeah.
a tough job, not just just because the abuse that came with it.
Yeah.
Um, and then I graduated to better, bigger jobs from that. But my
Yeah.
first one was plum picking.
So when you mention plum picking, how many hours at a time would you do that kind of job?
Oh, as an 11-year-old, they used to drop us off at 5:30 a.m. in the summer or whenever was the plum picking season. Because if it was
Yeah.
not plums, there were apples. If it was not apples or
Okay.
cherries, was always something.
Yeah.
We used to got dropped off at 5:30 a.m. and they didn't pick us up until 6 or 7 p.m. And
Whoa.
we always ate whatever. We ate a lot of the fruits, but
Right.
we
Yeah.
never really had lunch with us. We had
Mm.
water because there were wells everywhere.
Okay.
But it's funny because nobody ever asked me that question.
When you said 11, I thought, I'm imagining like, I don't know, an hour or two a day.
Mm,
Just
mm.
maybe
No,
like,
no, no. It was
so
dropped.
yeah, 5 8. So the more you talk, the more so much about you makes sense. Um, every time you tell me a story, I'm like, that's why, so it just makes so much sense. So I appreciate you telling stories and being willing to go back to some of these places because it helps me
Yeah,
to understand you and helps me to
yeah.
even be a better friend. So anyway,
It's
okay, let's
starting
keep
to make
moving.
more sense to me as well, the 5:30 thing, because nobody ever asked me how many hours we were in the field.
Yeah. I mean, think like your very first job, like your very first
Yeah,
view of work
yeah,
was a really, really long day.
yeah.
That's 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 a long day that most adults won't work.
And that was during summers,
Right.
and we had like a 3 month, sometimes 4 months break in the summer,
Mm.
so it was fun. I've
Yeah.
learned a lot.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot.
Yes, but you do still really enjoy fruit. Um,
Oh, absolutely. I could eat
yeah.
them all day and nothing else.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We have to keep moving. There's so many things.
Yeah.
Every time you say something, I think of more questions, but we'll just keep moving. Before you came to America, um, what did you think America was going to be like?
Heard for America for the first time when I was 13 years old, when
Okay.
I received a present from Operation Christmas Child. And that's a different story. We're not going to
Yeah.
get into it
Yeah.
because it's a powerful, beautiful story that completely changed my life.
Yeah.
And back then, we only knew about America because it was a show called Dallas
Hmm.
that we were watching. Um, and I imagine America as a land of endless opportunities where
Mm.
hard work always paid off.
Yeah.
And life was easier. I
Yeah.
picture freedom, success, and comfort.
Yeah.
The reality was more complicated when I got
Yeah.
here.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
yeah,
And having a limited view of America, and we think about social media and the internet and computers, but we didn't have that back in the day when we were kids. And so
yeah,
having a
and
small picture of America through the lens of a TV show like Dallas,
yeah.
it paints a different picture.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
mom, this is a funny story and we shouldn't get into it, but I'm just going to keep it short. My
Yeah.
mom still calls every dog that we have, still calls them Bobby. Every dog
Oh,
we have, the name is Bobby because that show made such an impact on her.
oh, wow.
Yep.
That's really fun. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
tell me about your early experiences getting a job in America.
it was overwhelming. Opportunities were there, but it came with challenges I never expected, like
Mm,
acceptance from being different.
yeah,
It was so overwhelming.
yeah,
I didn't know a lot of systems and computers. I'd never owned or touched. I mean, I wrote
yeah,
emails, but I had no access to anything
right,
like that. So it took me a very long time to send a lot of application and find a job. And my
yeah,
first job was very humbling.
mm,
Yes, very humbling. Um, but far from what I dreamed that it will be.
yeah,
But it taught me resilience, and I learned to start small and trust
yeah,
God for every step. And 17 years later, I'm at the same company. However, I'm doing a job that I love now, and
yeah,
I worked extremely hard to get here.
yeah. So before we go too much further past plum picking and very long days when you were 11, can you help us understand a little bit more about the other jobs that you had in Romania before you came to America? I just want to cover that
Yes.
before we go too far.
So plum picking was my first one.
Yeah.
Then I moved into being a nanny. When I'm
Okay.
talking about nanny, I don't know how nannies are here, but I was doing everything from cleaning, cooking, teaching the kids.
Wow.
I was getting there at 6 a.m. in the morning to get the kids ready, and I was not
Mhm.
getting home until about 8 o'clock at night. So
Wow.
the only thing I wasn't doing just staying there overnight.
Yeah.
And then from that, I went into teaching. I graduated with a education in
Mhm.
education. But the job that brought me the most fulfillment was a manager at a children's home.
Mm.
That was the job that it was one of those jobs that go home at night and you put your head on the pillow and you say, I
Yeah.
feel like I make a difference today. I
Yep.
felt like I love the child that I gave him unconditional love. I showed him what unconditional love was.
Yeah.
So that was the most fulfilling jobs. And I had
Mm.
others like administrative assistant and I cleaned a lot of homes. I
Yeah.
lost count how many homes I cleaned. But teaching and being a manager at that children's home, it was the most fulfilling for sure.
Wow. Okay. Wow. So when you talk about coming to America, looking for a job, trying to fill out applications and all of that here, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced um just trying to find something here?
Well, of course, language was the
Yeah.
hardest part. What people don't know, I barely knew a handful of words when I came to America. So what I did, I bought dictionary and I've learned English in 6 months by using a dictionary.
Wow.
And I applied to the job. I came to America in May of 2008.
Okay.
And by next year in February, I got my first job and my driving license. And everything
Wow.
I've learned was through a dictionary.
Yeah.
And I could understand some things, but expressing myself fully, it
Mhm.
took me a long time and it was very frustrating.
Yeah.
Um, I worried about sounding uneducated or
Mhm.
making mistakes because in my country, I felt like, you know, I felt smarter because I mean, I could write. I used to write poems,
Mm.
and it was really hard here to try to um, sound educated. Too many times I stayed quiet because I didn't want to hear jokes about my accent or
Yeah.
about my heritage, which it happened more often than I would like to admit.
Yeah.
And I lost count how many times due to my accent I was called, illegal or communist or gypsy,
Mm.
even a vampire. I mean,
Oh my goodness.
just because the legend of Vlad Dracula came from Romania. So that's
Yeah.
why the language was the hardest part.
Yeah, for sure. Was there a moment, or does the one particular moment come to mind when you felt discouraged or unseen in those early days of work in America?
Yes. Yes. There were times I felt invisible. Like my ideas didn't matter because
Yeah.
I couldn't say them perfectly.
Yeah.
People did not take them seriously.
Yeah.
Um, I was called a doormat
Mm.
many, many times at work because I didn't
Mm.
speak up.
Yeah.
But the reason was not, it was so much deeper,
Yeah.
so much deeper. It hurt,
Yeah.
but it also pushed me to lean on God and
Yeah.
remind myself that my worth isn't in words, money,
Yeah.
or title. So
Yeah.
there were lesson learned in that chapter as well.
Yeah. Did you feel like you had to work harder just to be taken seriously?
Absolutely. I constantly felt like I had to prove myself twice. Now, when I
Yeah.
look back, no, I didn't have to. But deep down, I felt like I had to prove
Right.
myself through
Yeah.
performance and, and persistence.
Yeah.
And excellence became my language when words
Mm.
failed me. When words
Yeah.
failed me, I tried to work harder. I said to myself that if I just keep my head down and
Yeah.
try to outwork everybody around me and get to work earlier and stay later,
Yeah.
maybe that would be enough. But
Yeah.
deep down, I just wanted someone to see my worth and not
Yeah.
judge me because my accent or where I came
Right. I'm seeing a trend with getting to work
from.
earlier and staying later. I feel like that's been a thing since you were 11. So I feel like that's
More
happened
like
a lot.
5 or 6.
Yeah, I mean, true, true. Because you guys had to get up super early, even for school, even before you
So,
had an official job.
well, in the book, Buried Not Broken, it talks a
Yeah,
lot about how when we were 5, we used to get up at 5 just because we had to go find bread. So that was part of the survival. So
yeah,
that was
yeah.
something that it was necessary.
Wow. Okay. Well, again, there's so many questions when you say that. We're going to try to stay on track today, but there are so many things that you're saying that I wish we can go back and tackle, but we'll just have to have you back for more episodes. One question I had for you: when you came to work in America, what were some of the cultural differences that you observed at work or that you felt working in an American environment?
The casual tone when people say
Mm,
things surprised me. In
okay.
Romania, work was formal and very structured.
Okay.
Here, people joke with their bosses and
Yeah.
they speak sarcastically, and I
Yeah.
don't know that language. I
Yeah.
still don't.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, I thought it was very disrespectful.
Okay.
But I learned it was just a different way of relating. But
Mm,
the truth is, when I get called names like, hey, communist, hey, illegal, hey, don't ask her, she doesn't know English, or
mm,
gypsy, to me, those words are not funny.
yeah.
Um, or casual because they have a different meaning and came with a lot
Yeah.
of abuse, came with poverty, came with a lot of trauma. But
Yeah.
no matter how hard you try to educate somebody, it feels
Right.
like an uphill battle. And I
Yeah.
choose not to focus on it.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you would mind telling a particular story. The next question I was going to ask was, were there moments when you felt misunderstood? But You told me a story one time about there's been several times in your life when you had more than one job. And one of those times you worked at Belk. And you've always been very good with cosmetics and makeup, and you worked at the cosmetic area. And you had a customer that came in that
Mhm.
treated you really disrespectfully. Would you mind sharing that? Because I feel
It's,
like it just fits in here with
it's,
being
yeah.
misunderstood.
It's funny because I shared that story with somebody 3 weeks ago, and
Mm,
he said, "Well, that sounds far-fetched. How long ago was that? Was that 17 years ago?" I said,
no,
"No, no,
no.
it's still happening. That
Yeah,
that
it
was
still
like
happens.
a few years ago. I think 3
Yep.
years ago."
Yeah.
But I um I was working at Belk. During the day I was working at my first job, and during the evenings and weekends I was working at Belk at the
Yeah.
makeup counter. And one, I believe it was Saturday morning, a lady came to me with a long list of cosmetics. I said, "Hey, I need this list." And I said, "Absolutely, will be my pleasure." And she looked at me and said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, don't touch my stuff." And she called me a few names that I don't feel comfortable to
Wow.
say. Said, "Don't touch my stuff." I say, "You illegal. You just like to come here and take everybody else's job. Don't touch my stuff." She said, "Call a
Wow.
manager." And I remember nodding and trying to keep my composure and smiling. I said, "Ma'am, there's nobody else on the floor." I said,
Yeah.
I can get them for you." She said, "I don't want you to touch them." And she continued to call me names.
Wow.
So I ended up calling my manager, which we were very understaffed that day.
Yeah.
So he came down and told her, said, "Look," and it just happened that my manager was also from a different country,
Yeah.
and said, "Ma'am, if you don't like," I said, "we're doing everything we can to help you, but if you don't like it, you don't need to come back to this store." And it really
Mm.
surprised me that
Yeah.
he stood out for me. But
Yeah.
again, he was also foreigner, and
Yeah.
he heard the language she was using and the name she was calling me, like I was lesser than.
Yeah.
So those things still happen from time to time.
Mm.
And that was the time when my husband said, "It's like, babe, I really don't feel comfortable you going back. It will be
Yeah.
okay." I said, we don't need you to have multiple jobs,
Right.
but still happens from time to time. I just tried
Mm.
not to take to heart anymore,
Yeah.
just because I don't know their story or what they
Right.
went through. That doesn't make it right though.
How does your faith sustain you when you go through moments like that and people say really awful, unkind things, and it's not just something on a social media comment, it's in your face and it's right there, and that's got to be hard to walk away from and come and kind of come down from. How has your faith kind of sustained you through moments in life that brought you um it feels like they
Mhm.
hate, it feels awful. It feels
Mhm.
like they were
Yeah.
discriminating against you, and there's so many things that come to mind. It makes me so mad. But how did your faith sustain you during those moments?
Faith was my lifeline because this was happening in Romania as well, not
Yeah,
necessarily because I was not a foreigner, but
right.
because the social status.
Yeah.
Um, I pray constantly on the way to
Mm,
work, during breaks. I can't tell you how many times I go in the bathroom and I just take 5 minutes and just pray.
yeah,
Scripture reminds me that God was with me even when I felt alone.
yeah,
Um, so it's a lot of prayers
yeah.
and a lot of
Mm,
verses. My mom always told us since we were little kids, she made us memorize a lot of Psalms and Bible
yeah,
verses.
yeah,
And if somebody yells at me or it's a very intense conversation, sometimes I'm sorry, I'm confessing to this. I tune them out and just go over Psalm 23,
right. Yeah,
just to try not to let them hinder my spirit.
yeah, yeah. Do you remember a specific time when you had to completely rely on God because you just had no other option? What did that look like?
Yes, every day.
Yeah,
There were times when I didn't know how bills will be paid,
yeah,
especially after I lost Robert. It took me a while to go to the bank and learn how to pay the bills and all of
yeah,
that. It's a long story, and that could be for another episode. But um, I had no plan B. because I
Yeah.
lost my citizenship and I couldn't go back home.
Yeah.
So I just prayed, and God always provided, sometimes in ways I can't explain, but
Yeah.
mostly He provided by sending the right people in my life, like
Yeah.
you and Judy and
Yeah.
Mary and Megan. And God
Mm.
sent so many people at the right time. He knew what I needed at that time.
Mm.
Community, prayer.
Yeah. Yeah. And just so the audience knows, Robert that passed away that you referenced was your first husband that you came to America to marry.
Yes.
Yes. And then he passed away after you guys had been married for how many years?
7 years.
7 years. He passed away. And so this time you were talking about, and that's was, you had kind of started those multiple jobs after he passed away. Is that the right
Yes.
timeline? Yeah.
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 Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you for
Looking back,
referencing that.
yeah. No, you're good. You said Robert. I thought, oh man, we didn't
Mm-hmm.
talk about Robert
Yeah.
in the first part of it.
My first husband.
Yes, your first husband. So looking back, where do you kind of see God's hand? And maybe in the moment, we know God is working on our behalf, but it can be hard to see it. Looking back now, where do you see God's hand now that you didn't see earlier in your life?
I see it in every open door. Every
Yeah.
person who showed kindness, every
Mm,
lesson I learned, what felt like setbacks at the times, they were
yeah.
actually setups for growth. I
Yeah.
didn't see it in the moment a lot of
Yeah.
times. Every rejection motivated me to work harder.
Yeah.
So even with that situation at Belk, or
Yeah.
even with the situation when I realized I lost my citizenship in Romania,
Yeah.
every single rejection, it just motivated me to work harder and us also trust the Lord, because
Yeah.
I knew He had a bigger plan.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Well, we're definitely going to have like part 2, 3, and 4. But when we think about feeling welcome, and we've talked about some of those stories at Belk or other times when maybe you were called names or people assumed that you were illegal and all of that. Let's talk about the opposite for a minute. What does it look like to feel welcomed in a church environment, in a work environment, in a community or friendship? What does feeling welcomed look like?
Somebody told me, my mom told me a long time ago that it's important when you walk into the room to be a thermostat, not
Yeah.
a thermometer. And she always used to say, can you change the temperature in the room? Can you leave that room better than when you walked in?
Yeah.
So one thing that I always look for, if I walk in a room, I always search, and I'm an observer, to see if
Yeah.
somebody smiles. And
Mm-hmm.
I gravitate towards them, because to
Yeah.
me, that's welcoming.
Yeah.
So when someone smiles, I feel like they invite me in. When
Mm.
someone listens without judgment, it reminds me that I belong.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to get here, where I was like, hey, I'm worth it. And I really belong here.
Yeah.
So those small gestures carry me through hard days.
Yeah.
So that is the reason I like I love everybody, and
Yeah.
I love to hug everybody I come in
Yes.
contact with, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know their struggle. And
Yeah.
a smile is free, a hug
Mm-hmm.
is free, and can make a huge difference.
Yeah. For sure. I know we talked about work for a lot of the episode, but in a church environment, what does it look like to welcome people who may not look like other people in the congregation?
Was a tough cookie, and I did not make it easy on people, because my walls were up and I didn't trust anybody, and I was
Mm,
very skeptical of people's motives.
yeah.
But there's a handful of people that they stayed close to me regardless how hard I tried to push them. You were
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah.
Judy's another one.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't stand, like, if somebody came right away and tried to hug me, hey, are you okay? It used to bother me, because I felt like um, they're giving me pity, like
Mm,
they felt sorry for me.
mm.
So I started coming to church really late and leaving early before the service was over, because
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't know how to take that.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was like, what were their motives? Were they
Yeah.
sincere, or are they feeling sorry for me? Because
Mm,
I was trying to tell people, like, I'm not a victim.
Yeah.
God is, but Judy used to, Judy's another dear friend of
Yeah.
ours. Um, she used to see me cry, and she learned really quick that I didn't like to be touched. And she used to just put tissues in my lap without saying a
Yeah.
word. And then she used to
Mm.
put her distance. And you came to my house and you left things at the door before, and then you
Yeah.
took off because I was like, okay, this girl
Yeah.
needs help, but she doesn't know it yet. So I
Yeah.
will forever be grateful for the community that God put in my life and didn't
Yeah.
give up on me.
Yeah.
It's okay to, if you try to help somebody and you feel
Yeah.
rejected, don't give up. Just
Yeah.
continue to smile, because I don't know what I would have been there, where I would have been
Yeah.
today if I didn't had people that didn't give up on me.
You know what's funny as you talk is you're talking about a season in your life when you were particularly strong and you wanted to be strong and you didn't want to show that vulnerability. And Judy and I were relentless on trying to
Yeah,
help.
yeah.
But um, I've seen you do that over and over now for other people. And I've seen you find people that appear to be strong, but you know that they're not. And then I've seen you run after them relentlessly and help them and befriend them and be kind to them and show them kindness that they probably didn't ask for, would never ask for, but you just keep showing up and you just kept doing that. And I've seen you do that for so many people. And so I think it's a beautiful thing how we can we can have seasons in our life when we don't always feel unlovable or we don't know
Mm.
how to show up with vulnerability because it's really scary, but you did. And you continued to, in that hard season, you kind of wore this facade of very, very strong Romanian woman. But then as the years went on, those walls eventually came down and you were able to then use your story in such a way that now you help so many people. It's a beautiful thing to sit back and watch you allow God to use your story.
Thank you. To that point, and Judy kind of helped me to um, understand that it's okay to be vulnerable. Because before I
Mm,
didn't cry, I
yeah,
always felt like crying was a sign of weakness.
yeah,
But then I start crying and putting myself out there, and I start changing my prayer to like, Lord, help me see the hurting people and
yeah,
help me meet them where they're at. But
yeah,
that was not a prayer that I had. Most of my
yeah,
life, my prayers were prayers of survival,
yeah,
not of thriving.
yeah,
So, due to the people that God put in my life, that prayer changed the wanting to see the hurting, because a lot of
yeah,
times we don't. We get so
yeah,
busy with life that we don't see people who are hurting and their
right,
needs.
right. I loved connecting with people from Europe just because my grandparents were immigrants from Czechoslovakia
Mm.
and they came over through Ellis Island in 1901 and 1903. And so anytime I meet someone from anywhere in Eastern Europe that is an immigrant, or whether they're a refugee status or immigrant status or whatever the status is, I always love getting to know them. And it's always an honor to befriend them or show any level of kindness to them because I hope that someone did that for my grandparents. And my grandparents came here, or great grandparents came here, and I can't even imagine the courage that it took for them to leave everything they knew, and they never got the chance to go back. And what do you wish people knew? I wish I had the chance to go to actually talk to my grandparents. But what do you wish people knew about the immigrant journey? If you could tell everyone what it's like or the one thing that you wish people would know, what would that one thing be?
Recently, this has been a little a hot button for me, but I'll explain why. Um, just because we're from a different country, that doesn't mean that we're not just chasing a dream.
Yeah.
We're carrying a story. And
Yeah.
that story, if you'll take the time to listen, could
Mm,
be impactful,
yeah.
because we left behind everything that was familiar to
Yeah.
us to start over. And we came with deep emotions, with a
Mm-hmm.
lot of memories, and we want to belong, not just to survive and barely make it day by day.
Yeah.
And words matter, and
Yeah.
they can heal or they can hurt. And
Mm.
I'm going to give you some example because listening makes a great impact.
Yeah.
So don't assume you understand someone's experience
Right.
just because you know one story.
Yeah.
Ask, learn, and be
Yeah.
gentle. For example, if you see us eating something that you consider gross,
Yeah.
you don't need to vocalize that.
Right.
Because what looks strange to you or disgusting might be a lifeline for someone else. A taste of
Mm.
home, a comfort in a foreign land.
Yes.
It's a reminder of where we came from. I eat a
Yeah.
lot of things that are considered disgusting or gross, but I choose not
Mm.
to talk about it because I always get that reaction. So I
Mm.
have a select few friends that go with me and get chicken livers or things that they're not necessary to everybody's liking,
Yeah.
but you don't have to vocalize it.
Mm.
Food, language, traditions, those are pieces of identity that
Yeah.
don't need to be mocked.
Right.
And be careful not to make someone feel lesser than because they
Yeah.
speak differently or holding on their culture.
Yeah.
Respect goes a long way. Immigrants aren't asking for perfection. They are asking for kindness, love, patience,
Yeah.
and dignity to be seen equal.
Yeah.
So yeah, you
That's
don't need
right.
to make faces. I
Yeah.
stop eating things like that in public
Mm.
just because it does make me feel like I'm lesser than. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm just gonna mm, drink a lot of liquids today or eat some
Yeah.
fruits,
Mm.
you know?
That's so hard. That's so hard. There's only been one time I've had the privilege of traveling to different countries around the world. There was a time I was traveling for college and we were in France. And the French are not known for particularly liking Americans. And I felt out of place in almost every place that I went to. And the food that they had was so different. It's not like going to a French restaurant here and having the American version of whatever we think French food is. It was very different.
Crepes.
Yes, right. We think it's like having olive crepes, and that they are wonderful, but that's not all they eat. And
Mhm.
if all I had was Nutella crepes, my time in France, it would have
Yeah.
been so much easier. But
Yeah.
that's not what real French food was. And a lot of their food, they have a lot of cold dinners. Um, and we don't serve a lot of cold entrees and cold dinners in America. So they might have like
Mhm.
cold couscous and shrimp, or the salad at the time that we would have. It was very different. A lot of vinaigrettes, a lot of balsamic vinegars, a lot of beets, a lot of pickled beets. I had
Mhm.
never had pickled beets in my life until I went to France, but something simple like they have their coffee. They would put their coffee in a bowl and then drink their coffee and pick it up and sip it like, and it was very different. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking to myself, like, I just want a mug and I just want to drink my coffee out of a mug because it made me feel like I was home. Like, and it
Yes.
was something simple. It was just coffee
Yes.
in a coffee mug, but it made me feel like I was home. And that was
Yes.
we were in France for a couple of weeks. I was there. I was in Europe for 2 months, but we were in France for a few weeks. And I cannot even imagine moving to another country and being surrounded by things that are so different from the food and the coffee and the language and the roads and the houses and at our shops. Like everything is different.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine how hard every day is when you feel like you're out of place a little bit. And I feel like we don't appreciate that journey people go through. And sometimes we get frustrated because they don't talk a lot. And it's, well, no wonder they don't talk a lot. They don't feel like they have a seat at the table. And I think there's beauty
Yeah.
in giving them a seat at the table so that we can hear their stories and we can hear their voice and their voice is valued. And
Mm.
that's really, really important to me. But I wanted to ask you, what are some small, meaningful ways as believers that we can connect with people that are from other countries, other places around the world? But what are some things we can do, even in a workplace or in a church community? How can we connect with people that are different from us? What are some small, meaningful,
Mm.
practical ways people can change things?
Um, Listen, invite,
Yeah.
love, encourage, sometimes just a smile.
Yeah.
It makes such a big difference. Or, hey, how are you doing today? You have a phrase that it actually touched me. You say sometimes, I'm happy you're here.
Yeah.
Something around those lines. You use that
Mhm.
in different ways. But
Yeah.
that makes a foreigner just stop and think. It's like,
Mm.
oh, wow, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It has such a huge impact.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I'm happy I got to know you, because you have no idea what that
Yeah.
person endured prior to meeting you. And those words doesn't cost nothing. They're
Right.
not asking for nothing,
Yeah.
just a smile.
Yeah.
With the hug, just get to know them first. I
Yeah.
hug everybody now,
I
but
know you do now. Yeah.
but smile and say, "Hey, I'm happy you're here." Will make a
Mm.
huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I do love to say that to someone that I meet that's from another country. Even if I don't know their journey story of how they came here, once I know they're from another country and they tell me where they're from and I learn a little bit about them before I leave that interaction, whether it's at Chick-fil-A or I had a conversation with somebody at SeaWorld one time and they were from Moldova, I think.
Yeah,
And anyway, we were just talking about their journey in Moldova, before we left, I said, "Hey, I just want you to know that I'm happy you're here." And I don't know if anyone's ever told you that before, but I'm really glad you're in America, and I'm glad you made the journey to be here. Because I think I'm so glad that my great grandparents came. I'm so glad they made the journey. And David's parents, David's a first generation American. His parents or his dad came from England. I don't know what their journey is. I don't need to know the full backstory, but just to say, I'm really glad you're here. I'm really glad you made the journey.
that makes such a huge impact, because
Mm,
those words truly, truly matters.
yeah,
Sometimes we're viewed as we're here to take.
yeah,
And I have so many stories. I'm going to write them in a book someday, with
yeah.
how many times people assume that I stole something or I picked up
Mm,
something that was not mine just
yes,
because I'm from somewhere else. And
yes,
um, even when they realized that was not the truth and they found the stolen object, they never apologized. They said, "Oh,
yeah,
is the foreigner over there? Go check her pockets."
yeah,
And it's like, how about just try to accept people and meet them where they're
yeah,
at. Not everybody's out to take
yeah.
what you got.
It's
Or
like immediately assuming the worst.
yes, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh man. Okay. Well, one last thing I wanted to ask you about is you have mentioned it a little bit during the episode, but I wanted to give you time to tell the audience about the book that you wrote. What is it called?
Mm.
What's it about? And then, of course, we're going to have a link for it in today's show notes so you can find it easily. But tell us about the book and the journey of writing it.
So, in 2023, my sister got diagnosed with ovarian cancer. In Romania, I used to write a lot. And one of her dreams was for us to tell the story how it was to grow up under the communist regime.
Yeah.
And we start putting notes together while she was still alive. And she she's the one who ignited that fire in me. I wanted it so bad to um help her leave a legacy. So I started writing. Um my therapist encouraged me to do so as well. It's called
Mm-hmm.
Buried Not Broken: Memoir of Survival, Sisterhood, and Starting Over.
Mm,
And it's a collection of the story, what it meant to grow up under the communist regime. It also highlights the revolution 1989. And it also highlights a lot of abuse and
mm,
addiction. And one of the things that I would like for reader to take out of it is like, everybody has a story.
yeah.
Everybody has a story. And
Mm,
life is too short uh, for us to just stop, for us to try to play small.
Yeah.
And if we don't write those stories down, those stories going to die with us. So
Yeah.
I know it's morbid, but that's the reality. We
Yeah.
only have one life and one chance to make a difference. And that was one of the biggest reasons I decided to start writing.
Yeah.
And we already submitted the second book to be edited, and we're working on the third one.
That's
So
amazing.
if God ever put on your heart to write, I said,
Yeah.
don't wait. Just start
Yeah.
one chapter a week. If you do one chapter a week, like
Yeah.
1,000 words, you will have
Right.
a full book in 12 months.
Yeah. 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 That's so exciting. It has been an honor being your friend for the last 15 years, even though the first 6 months or so I was a little scared of you. But after that, then I got to know you and I wasn't scared anymore.
Thank
But
you. That
it's been
means a lot to me.
yeah, that's right. I was not scared after the first 6 months. But getting to know you and getting to watch God work in your life through so many different things that you've gone through and getting to know part of your story. There was so much of your life. I knew you were from Romania, but I didn't know a lot about your story until us being friends for years. So I appreciate you just continuing to open that door and to let us see in is such an honor when people let us
you.
into their story. So thank you for being willing to go there. And before we close today, I would love for you to pray over those in our audience who maybe are in a work environment or a church environment and they don't know how to be vulnerable. They don't know how to let people in and they feel like they're out of place, whether they're from another country or not. They just don't know how to do that. And it's hard and it's really scary. And so I would love for you just to kind of pray over them and pray that God will give them the strength and the courage, but also that they'll have those people in their life that will pursue them.
Two things. If it's okay
Yeah.
with you, I'll pray in Romania. I've been
Yes,
here
absolutely.
17 years and I still pray in Romania. One of these days, I
Yes.
will shock you and I'll start praying in
No,
English.
you're good. God hears you.
But before I pray, I just want to, I know you have a heart for anybody who comes from different countries and you
Yeah.
make me feel welcome and you want to embrace it and you want to help them and you want to love them. So I'm hoping that this show can reach as many people that are from different countries. I don't like to use the word
Yeah.
illegal.
Yeah, no.
But if I can leave one piece of advice for
Yeah.
people who are struggling right now and they can't find their place, the one thing I want to tell you that you're not alone, my friend. You're
Yeah.
not. It's hard right now, but this season will shape you.
Yeah.
Just keep going. Do your part by loving others no matter how others treat you. Ask for help. It took me so many years to ask for help and trust that there are people in the community that will love to embrace you and love you
Yeah.
and meet you where you are.
Yeah.
And trust that God is writing a story bigger than your struggle. And of course, listen to Faith and Works. I listen to it a few times a week, the same episode sometimes.
Oh, thank you, Mia.
But I want to say thank you, Carol, for allowing me to be here, and I will pray.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mia.
Tată, venim în fața ta în această zi să-ți mulțumim pentru tot ce ai făcut pentru noi. Îți mulțumim, Doamne, pentru Carol. Îți mulțumim pentru toți prietenii și comunitatea pe care ai adus-o în viața mea. Îți mulțumim, Doamne, pentru biserica pe care mi-ai adus-o ca să mă încurajeze. Îți mulțumim pentru fiecare lecție pe care am învățat-o la lucru sau în comunitate. Doamne, vin înaintea ta să mă rog pentru oricine ascultă. Ajută-i tu, dă-le înțelepciune, dă-le putere ca să poată să te vadă pe tine în totul. În numele tău m-am rugat. Amin.
Amen. Thank you, Mia.
Thank you.
I am so thankful for Mia and her sharing her story with so much honesty and so bravely. Her story reminds us that what feels buried is often the very place where God is doing his deepest work. Friends, if this episode resonated with you, if it stirred something in your heart, I want to encourage you to do two things. First, make sure that you check out Mia's book, Buried But Not Broken. The link is in the show notes. There'll be a link for the printed version and then also the Audible version. I highly recommend it on Audible. I'm listening to it right now on Audible, and the Romanian accent from the narrator just brings the story to life. Highly recommend the Audible version. Second, if you could please share this episode with someone that you love, that you know could use the encouragement. We all know someone who has questioned their worth, someone who needs the reminder that their identity is secure in Christ. I want to leave you with this truth today. You are not who others say that you are. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are who God says you are. In 1 Peter 2:9, it says, "But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." If you're listening today and you've ever felt like you weren't enough, hear this clearly. You are chosen. You are seen. You are deeply loved, and your story is not over. Thank you for being here, for listening and walking out your faith right where God has placed you. I'll see you next time on Faith and Work.